What if everything you've been told about building wealth is a lie designed to keep you poor? What if the get-rich-slow plan, save 10%, invest in index funds, work for 40 years, retire at 65, is actually a scam that trades your entire youth for a promise of comfort when you're too old to enjoy it? What if there's a completely different roadmap to wealth that nobody talks about because it threatens the system that profits from your lifetime of labor? Right now, you're on a road to wealth that's so slow you'll be elderly before you're rich, if you ever get there at all. Meanwhile, there are people in their 30s who are already wealthy, retired, and living the life you think you have to wait decades to access. They're not lucky. They're not trust fund kids. They found a different road, a fast lane, while you're stuck in traffic on the slow lane. You're about to discover why the financial advice you've been following is keeping you poor, why trading time for money guarantees you'll never be wealthy, why compound interest is a beautiful theory that fails in practice for most people, and the exact code to wealth that can make you a millionaire in years, not decades. This is the millionaire fast lane. Let's accelerate. Imagine 3 roads to wealth. Most people never even see all 3. They're told about one road. They follow it blindly, and they wonder why wealth never arrives. The first road is the sidewalk. This is where most people live, spending everything they make, living paycheck to paycheck, hoping their luck will change, blaming others for their situation, and ending up broke and dependent. Sidewalkers might make good money, but they spend it all on consumption. They have no plan, no savings, no investments, just immediate gratification and perpetual financial fragility. The second road is the slow lane. This is the road you've been sold, the responsible path. Get a good education. Get a good job. Save 10% of your income. Invest in your 401k. Max out your IRA. Buy a house. Work for 40 years. Let compound interest do its magic. Retire at 65 with a few $1,000,000. Then, finally, live the life you always wanted. This is what financial advisors, parents, schools, and society all preach. It's the safe path, the smart path, and it's a trap. The third road is the fast lane. This is the road almost nobody talks about because it threatens the entire system. The fast lane is about building wealth quickly through business and assets, not by trading time for money, but by creating systems that generate wealth without your constant presence. Fast laners become millionaires in their 30s or 40s, not their 60s. They retire young. They live life on their terms now, not someday. This is what M.J. DeMarco reveals in The Millionaire Fast Lane. Crack the code to wealth and live rich for a lifetime. DeMarco isn't a financial advisor or academic theorist. He's someone who drove a fast lane business to a multi-million-dollar exit in his 30s, retired young, and now teaches others how to do the same. His premise is incendiary. The slow lane is a con. It might have worked in previous generations when pensions existed, when Social Security was secure, when health care was affordable, when you could work one job for 40 years, but that world is gone. Today, the slow lane is a risk-heavy path that trades your youth and vitality for a small probability of modest wealth when you're old, if you even make it there. The math of the slow lane is brutal. Save $500 per month for 40 years at 8% returns, and you'll have about $1.7 million at age 65. Sounds good until you realize You just traded 40 years of youth for wealth that arrives when you're old, and your health is declining. Inflation will have eroded that $1.7 million purchasing power. You're dependent on market returns you can't control. Your one health crisis or job loss from derailment. And you spent 4 decades in a job you might not even like, deferring life, waiting for retirement. Is this the dream? Trading the best years of your life, your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, for a promise that maybe, if everything goes perfectly, you'll be comfortable in your 60s. That's not a plan. That's a prison sentence with potential parole. DeMarco argues that the slow lane is risk disguised as safety. You're risking your youth, your health, your time, and your potential, all the things you can't get back, on a plan controlled by factors outside your control. Market performance, inflation, company stability, health, economic conditions. The fast lane flips everything. Instead of trading time for money, a job, you build assets and systems that produce money independent of your time. Instead of saving your way to wealth over decades, you create massive value and capture a portion of it, building wealth in years. Instead of deferring life until retirement, you front-load the hard work to buy freedom young enough to actually enjoy it. This isn't get rich quick. This is get rich fast through strategic business building and value creation. Quick implies luck or shortcuts. Fast implies speed through focused effort and the right vehicle. DeMarco is clear. The fast lane requires more work up front than a job does, but it compresses decades of wealth building into years. The book systematically dismantles slow lane mythology, exposes why trading time for money is a dead end, reveals the mathematical realities of compound interest that financial advisors don't want you to see, and provides a complete blueprint for fast lane wealth through business and value creation. What you're about to learn will probably make you angry. Angry that you've been sold a lie. Angry that the best years of your life are being consumed by a plan that might not even work. Angry that there's a different path that nobody told you about. Good. Use that anger as fuel to change directions. But you'll also feel liberated. Liberated from the idea that you must sacrifice 40 years to wealth. Liberated from dependency on employers, markets, and systems outside your control. Liberated to pursue wealth on your terms in your timeline. Through your efforts, the subtitle says it all. Crack the code to wealth and live rich for a lifetime. Not live poor now and maybe rich later. Not work forever and hope. Live rich, meaning wealthy in money, time, and freedom for a lifetime. Not just at the end if you're lucky. This is the roadmap to the fast lane. It's not for everyone. Most people will choose the familiar slow lane because it's what they know and what society validates. But for people who see the slow lane as the scam it is, who refuse to trade youth for a geriatric payday, who want wealth and freedom now, this is your blueprint. Let's explore it. Chapter 1. The slow lane is a lie. Before we can embrace the fast lane, we must destroy the myth of the slow lane. DeMarco doesn't just critique it, he mathematically annihilates it, showing why it's a fundamentally flawed plan for building wealth. The slow lane formula for wealth is job, trade time for money, plus save 10%, plus invest in market, plus compound interest, plus 40 years equals wealth at retirement. This is the plan everyone promotes. Financial advisors live off this plan, managing your money for fees over decades. The financial industry profits enormously from millions of people following this plan. But let's examine the math honestly. If you earn $60,000 per year and save 10%, $6,000 annually, investing it at historical market returns of 8%, after 40 years, you'll have approximately $1.6 million. Financial advisors show you this projection, and you're impressed. $1.6 million sounds rich. But look closer. First, you just worked 40 years, 16,000 plus hours of your life consumed by work. That's your youth, your health, your vitality traded. Second, $1.6 million in 40 years isn't what $1.6 million is today. Inflation will have eroded purchasing power by 50 to 70%. So it's really worth $600,000 to $800,000 in today's dollars. Third, you're entirely dependent on market returns you don't control. If markets underperform, which happens, your plan fails. Fourth, you're 65 years old. Health declining, energy diminishing, time running out. This is when you finally get to live, when you're old. DeMarco calls this settling for mediocrity. The slow lane doesn't make you rich. It makes you comfortable, maybe, if everything goes perfectly, when you're too old to fully enjoy wealth. That's not wealth. That's just not being poor in old age. The slow lane has uncontrollable variables that determine your success. Market performance. Will the next 40 years match the past? Maybe not. Job stability. Will you stay employed for 40 years? Increasingly unlikely. Health. Will you stay healthy enough to work? Not guaranteed. Economic conditions. Will inflation, recessions, crashes derail your plan? Probably. And lifespan. Will you live long enough to enjoy retirement? 100 years. Many don't. You're betting your entire financial future on factors outside your control. That's not safe. That's insanely risky. But it's sold as the safe path because it benefits employers who get your labor for decades and financial institutions who charge fees to manage your money for decades. DeMarco also destroys the compound interest myth. Yes, compound interest is powerful mathematically. Money grows exponentially over time, but it requires three things most people don't have. Significant capital to start. You can't compound $100. It'll still be tiny in 40 years. Incredible patience. 40 years is your entire adult life. And consistent market returns, which aren't guaranteed. The harsh reality. Compound interest is a great tool for people who are already wealthy and have large sums to invest. For regular people starting with small amounts, compound interest over a working lifetime produces modest wealth, too late to matter. It's a beautiful theory that fails in practice for most people. The chapter addresses the American dream. That's really a nightmare in disguise. Work hard, go to college, get a good job, buy a house, save for retirement. This script was written in an era that no longer exists, when pensions were common, when Social Security was secure, when health care was affordable, when housing was accessible, when one income could support a family. That world is gone. Today's reality. Massive student debt that takes decades to repay. Jobs that require constant hustle but don't pay enough to build wealth quickly. Houses that consume huge percentages of income. Healthcare costs that can bankrupt you. Social Security that might not exist when you need it. Pensions that disappeared. The slow lane script doesn't work in this environment, but everyone keeps following it because they don't know what else to do. DeMarco shares his own slow lane experience before awakening. He went to college, got a job, worked hard, saved money, did everything right. And he was miserable, trading his life for a paycheck, building someone else's dream, looking at decades more of the same before he could maybe retire. He realized the slow lane was a trap, not a path. That realization changed everything. The chapter ends with this: the slow lane is not safe. It's the riskiest plan of all because you're risking your life, your time, youth, health, and potential, the things you can never get back on a plan that probably won't make you wealthy, and definitely won't make you wealthy until you're old. If you're okay with that, fine. But if you want more, if you want wealth and freedom while you're young enough to enjoy them, you need a different road. You need the fast lane. Chapter 2. Why jobs and trading time for money fail. The slow lane is built on trading time for money through employment. This chapter exposes why this is a fundamentally broken wealth-building strategy, and why jobs are wealth jail, not wealth vehicles. DeMarco starts with math. When you have a job, you're trading hours for dollars. If you make $30 per hour and work 40 hours per week, you make $1,200 per week, $62,400 per year, minus taxes, leaving you with maybe $45,000. This is your income ceiling unless you can somehow work more hours or get a raise. But there are only 24 hours in a day. You're already working 8 to 10 of them. You need sleep, 8 hours. That's 16 to 18 hours accounted for, leaving 6 to 8 hours for everything else in life. You literally cannot work enough hours to become wealthy on an hourly wage or salary. The math doesn't allow it. Even high earners, doctors, lawyers, executives making $200,000 to $500,000 annually aren't truly wealthy. They're high-earning employees. They still trade time for money. They might afford nicer things, but they're on the same treadmill as everyone else, just at a higher income level. Stop working, and income stops. That's not wealth. That's expensive dependency. True wealth is having assets that produce income independent of your time. When you don't work, money still flows in. That's the difference between being rich, high income from work, and being wealthy, income from assets. Jobs make you rich at best, never wealthy. DeMarco introduces the concept of limited leverage. In a job, your leverage is limited to your time and your ability to increase your hourly value. You might get raises, promotions, better jobs, but you're always constrained by time. Even if you make $200 per hour, you still can't work more than a certain number of hours. Compare this to business ownership where leverage is unlimited. Your business can serve one customer or 1,000,000 customers without proportionally increasing your time. You can hire employees, creating leverage through other people's time. You can systematize, creating leverage through processes. You can scale infinitely in ways that jobs never allow. The chapter addresses the safety illusion of jobs. People think jobs are safe, steady paycheck, benefits, security. But jobs are actually incredibly risky. You have one income source controlled entirely by someone else. They can fire you anytime. The company can fail. The industry can decline. Your skills can become obsolete. Recessions can eliminate your position. You have zero control. And when you lose a job, your income goes to zero immediately. That's not safety. That's vulnerability. Business owners with diversified income streams, multiple customers, and systems that run without them are actually more secure because they control their income, and it doesn't depend on one employer's whims. DeMarco also destroys the myth that jobs provide freedom. Jobs are the opposite of freedom. You're told when to work, where to work, how long to work, what to work on, when you can vacation, how much you're worth. You trade freedom for paycheck, and society calls this responsible and mature. The chapter addresses golden handcuffs. When you're paid well enough that you feel trapped, you don't love your job, but you make good money, have good benefits, and feel you can't leave. So you stay year after year, decade after decade, building someone else's wealth while deferring your own dreams. The golden handcuffs are still handcuffs. DeMarco shares his job experience, working for a limo company, being paid $12 per hour to drive wealthy people around. He realized he was trading his time to drive someone else's car for someone else's profit while making almost nothing. Meanwhile, the business owner was making money from multiple drivers, multiple cars, without being there. Same effort, completely different results. One based on trading time, the other based on owning the system. That realization crystallized the fundamental problem with jobs. You're building wealth, just not yours. You're creating value, but capturing a tiny fraction, while your employer captures the majority. You're the engine generating profit, but you're paid just enough to keep coming back, while someone else gets rich. The chapter ends with this: if your plan for wealth involves a job, even a good job, even a high-paying job, you don't have a plan for wealth. You have a plan for being a well-paid employee. That's fine if that's what you want, but don't confuse it with wealth building. Jobs are not wealth vehicles. They're income sources that fund wealth vehicles, businesses, and investments. The sooner you understand this distinction, the sooner you can escape the time for money trap and start building real wealth. Chapter 3. The Fast Lane Roadmap. Now we shift from what doesn't work to what does. The fast lane isn't about luck, shortcuts, or gambling. It's a mathematical advantage achieved through business ownership and controllable leverage. This chapter reveals the fast lane equation and how it creates wealth in years, not decades. DeMarco presents the wealth equation. Wealth equals net profit plus asset value. This seems simple, but the implications are profound. Your wealth is determined by how much profit your assets generate and how much your assets are worth if sold. Notice what's not in the equation: time worked, hours invested, effort expended. Wealth is about results, not effort. The fast lane builds wealth by creating or acquiring assets that produce income and appreciate in value. The primary fast lane vehicle is business ownership, creating or buying businesses that generate profit and can eventually be sold for multiples of annual profit. Here's why business is the fast lane. First, unlimited leverage. Your business can serve one person or 1 million people without proportionally increasing your time. Digital products, online platforms, software, systems. They scale infinitely. One person's business can serve millions. Second, controllable income. Unlike jobs where someone else decides your worth, or stock market where you're dependent on market forces, business income is largely within your control. Serve more customers, improve products, increase marketing. You control the levers that drive income. Third, asset value creation. Businesses are assets that can be sold. Profitable businesses typically sell for 3 to 6 times annual net profit, sometimes more. A business generating $500,000 annual profit might sell for $2 to $3 million. You've just created a multi-million-dollar asset that you can liquidate. Fourth, income plus equity. While building the business, you're earning income from profits. When you sell, you convert equity to cash. You're building wealth two ways simultaneously: lifestyle income and asset appreciation. DeMarco introduces the fast lane equation. Wealth equals net profit plus asset value times time. But unlike the slow lane where time is 40 years, fast lane time is compressed. 5, 10, maybe 15 years to build a business that generates substantial wealth. You're still investing time, but instead of 40 years of someone else's dream, it's a fraction of that building your own. The law of affection determines your income potential. Wealth equals value, times reach times magnitude. Value is what you provide: solutions to problems, entertainment, information, products people want. Reach is how many people you impact. 1 customer or 1 million magnitude is the strength of impact, solving small problems or changing lives. This explains why some businesses make millions while others struggle. A local bakery has high value, great products, but limited reach, 1 location, local customers, and limited magnitude, small purchases. A software company solving significant problems for millions of users has high value, massive reach, and substantial magnitude, resulting in enormous wealth potential. The fast lane isn't about working less. It's about working on the right thing. You might work harder building a business than you did in a job, especially initially. But you're building an asset that compounds and can eventually run without you, versus trading time that produces nothing beyond immediate income. DeMarco addresses the risk perception. People think jobs are safe and businesses are risky. But as we discussed, jobs are actually incredibly risky. Single income source, zero control, can disappear anytime. Businesses are controllable risk. You determine strategy. You adapt to market changes. You control multiple income streams. Smart business building is actually lower risk than employment once you understand how to build businesses properly. The chapter outlines fast lane business criteria, 5 commandments that determine whether a business can create fast lane wealth or just another job. First, need. It must solve real problems or provide real value. Market demand must exist. Build it and they will come is a fantasy. Find needs and fulfill them. Second, entry. Barriers to entry must exist or be created. If anyone can start your business easily, competition will be intense and margins will be razor thin. You need some competitive advantage, expertise, systems, network, brand, innovation that makes your business defensible. Third, control. You must control the business and its key factors. Building a business on someone else's platform, like being an Amazon seller at the mercy of Amazon's changing policies, gives you limited control. True fast lane businesses are controlled by you, not subject to other companies' arbitrary decisions. Fourth, scale. The business must be scalable to reach large numbers of people without proportionally increasing your effort. Service businesses with your time as the product don't scale. Systems, products, platforms, digital offerings, these scale infinitely. Fifth, time. The business must eventually decouple from your time. If you have to personally deliver every unit of value, you've created a job, not a business. The goal is building systems that run without your constant presence. Businesses that meet all 5 commandments are fast lane worthy. Businesses that fail multiple commandments might generate income but won't create rapid wealth. This framework helps you evaluate opportunities and focus on ventures with true fast lane potential. DeMarco shares his fast lane business, a web-related company he built in his 20s and 30s, scaled to millions in revenue, and eventually sold for a multi-million-dollar exit in his 30s. He achieved financial independence decades before most people through business ownership, not through saving and investing from a job. The chapter ends with this: the fast lane isn't theoretical, it's mathematical and reproducible. Create value at scale, control your business, build systems that decouple from your time, and you compress decades of wealth building into years. It's not easier than the slow lane. It requires more risk, more effort, more learning. But it works faster and ultimately provides more security because you control the outcome. The road is open. The question is whether you're willing to take it. Chapter 4. The 5 Fast Lane Commandments in Depth. Understanding the 5 commandments conceptually is one thing. Applying them to evaluate and build businesses is another. This chapter dives deeper into each commandment with practical application. The commandment of need. Your business must solve real problems or fulfill genuine needs. This sounds obvious, but is violated constantly. Entrepreneurs fall in love with ideas without validating that anyone actually wants what they're selling. They build products nobody asked for, then wonder why no one buys. DeMarco emphasizes, start with market needs, not with your ideas. What problems do people have? What are they complaining about? What inefficiencies exist? What would make people's lives better, easier, more enjoyable? Find real needs, then build solutions. The best businesses often start by scratching your own itch. You experience a problem, can't find a good solution, so you create one. But then validate that others have the same problem and would pay for your solution. One person's problem might be only their problem. Find problems that millions share. He warns against faking need through artificial demand creation. Some businesses create problems that don't exist just to sell solutions. This might work short-term, but isn't sustainable. Real, lasting businesses solve real, lasting problems. The commandment of entry. If anyone can start your business with minimal barriers, you'll face relentless competition that destroys profitability. Easy entry means easy competition. Think about restaurants. Relatively easy to start if you have capital, which is why competition is intense and failure rates are high. Compare that to specialized manufacturing, requiring expensive equipment and expertise. Fewer competitors because entry barriers are high. You need barriers, expertise they can't quickly duplicate, patents or intellectual property, brand recognition and trust built over time. Network effects. Your value increases as more people use your service. Economies of scale. You can operate cheaper at scale than new entrants. Or unique positioning that's hard to copy. The worst businesses have no entry barriers. Anyone can start them anytime. The best businesses have substantial barriers that protect your market position and profitability. The commandment of control. You must control your business's critical success factors. Building on platforms controlled by others is risky because they can change rules, raise prices, or eliminate you entirely. DeMarco uses the example of businesses built entirely on Facebook or Amazon. When those platforms change policies, which they do frequently, businesses dependent on them can be destroyed overnight. You don't control your destiny. Zuckerberg or Bezos does. True control means owning your customer relationships, your brand, your distribution, your product, your pricing. You might use platforms as traffic sources, but your core business must stand independent of any single platform. This also means legal control. You must own significant equity. Building someone else's business as an employee or minority partner isn't fast lane. You're creating wealth you don't control. The commandment of scale. Scale is the difference between a job and a business. If your income requires proportional increases in your time, you haven't built a business. You've built a job with entrepreneurship overhead. Scalable businesses have unit economics that improve with volume. Software companies can serve one customer or 1 million with similar infrastructure costs. Each additional customer is nearly pure profit service businesses, where you're the service provider can't scale. You're limited by your hours. DeMarco emphasizes internet businesses as ideal for scale. Once you build a digital product, website, software, or platform, serving more people costs almost nothing additional. Compare that to physical products requiring manufacturing, storage, and shipping for each unit, scalable, but with marginal costs. Compare that to personal services, not scalable at all. The most scalable businesses decouple value delivery from time. You create value once, write a book, record a course, build software, create a system, and sell it infinitely without additional time investment. The commandment of time. This is the ultimate goal. Building a business that generates income and grows value without consuming all your time. Otherwise, you've just created a job with more risk and probably more hours than employment offered. Early stages require heavy time investment. Building, launching, growing. That's expected, but the trajectory must move toward time freedom. You systematize, hire, delegate, automate, and progressively remove yourself from daily operations. The end goal is a business that runs without you. You might stay involved strategically or because you enjoy it, but you're not needed operationally. That's when you've built a true asset, something that produces value independent of your presence. DeMarco warns about lifestyle businesses that feel entrepreneurial, but violate the time commandment. Consultants, freelancers, personal service providers, making good money but trading time. These might be better than jobs, more income, more control. But they're not true fast-lane vehicles unless you can systematize and delegate yourself out of daily delivery. The chapter ends with the challenge. Evaluate any business opportunity against all 5 commandments. How many does it pass? Businesses passing all 5 are pure fast lane, fast wealth potential. Businesses passing 3 or 4 might be good opportunities, but with limitations. Businesses passing 0 to 2 aren't fast lane vehicles. Find something else. Use these commandments as filters before investing time and money. Don't build businesses that violate multiple commandments, then wonder why wealth isn't coming. Build strategically. Build according to fast lane principles. Build businesses that mathematically can create wealth, not just income. Chapter 5. Execution. Where most people fail, understanding the fast lane conceptually is valuable. Executing is where almost everyone fails. This chapter addresses the massive gap between knowledge and action, and why most aspiring fast laners never actually build anything. DeMarco is brutal here. Ideas are worthless. Everyone has ideas. The world is drowning in ideas. What's rare is execution. Taking ideas from concept to reality. And execution is hard, which is why most people never do it. They prefer consuming information about entrepreneurship to actually doing entrepreneurship. The chapter identifies common execution failures. First, analysis paralysis, endless research, planning, and preparation without ever starting, waiting for perfect information, perfect conditions, perfect readiness. These never arrive. Perfection is the enemy of execution. Second, idea switching, starting one thing, getting excited about another, abandoning the first for the second, then discovering a third idea and abandoning the second. Serial idea switching ensures you never build anything to completion. Execution requires commitment through the messy middle when excitement fades and hard work remains. Third, excuse making. I don't have time. You have time for what you prioritize. I don't have money. Most businesses can start lean. I don't have expertise. Learn as you go. The market is too competitive. Find differentiation. The economy is bad. Businesses succeed in all economies. Excuses are stories you tell yourself to justify inaction. Fourth, fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of wasted effort, fear of looking stupid, fear of success. Yes, really, some people fear what changes if they succeed. Fear is natural, but can't be allowed to prevent action. Successful entrepreneurs feel fear and act anyway. DeMarco emphasizes speed, bias toward action over endless planning. You don't need perfect business plans. You don't need all the answers. You need to start, test, learn, and iterate. The market will teach you what works faster than research ever will. He introduces the concept of product-market fit, the alignment between what you're offering and what the market actually wants. You can't determine this through research alone. You must get something in front of customers, see how they respond, adjust based on feedback, and iterate until you've created something people want enough to pay for. This means launching imperfect products, minimum viable products, MVPs, that deliver core value even if they're not polished. You'll improve based on real customer feedback rather than imagined needs. Perfectionism is expensive. You invest months creating something perfect that might not be what customers want. Better to launch quickly, learn, and adjust. The chapter addresses failure as essential feedback. Most attempts will fail or require significant pivoting. That's not a reason to not try. It's the process. Every failure teaches you something, narrows options, points toward what might work. Successful entrepreneurs typically have multiple failures before finding what works. The difference is they keep trying. DeMarco shares his own execution journey, multiple failed attempts before building the business that worked. He didn't succeed because his first idea was perfect. He succeeded because he kept executing, learning from failures, and eventually creating something that met all 5 fast lane commandments. The chapter provides an execution framework. First, validate the idea quickly. Before investing heavily, test whether people actually want what you're planning. Create a simple landing page describing the product, drive small amounts of traffic, see if anyone's interested enough to click buy. Then tell them it's coming soon. If no one's interested at this stage, don't build it. Second, create an MVP, the minimum version that delivers core value, not full-featured, not polished. Just functional enough to provide value and get in customers' hands. Launch this fast, weeks or months, not years. Third, get feedback from real customers using your real product. Not friends and family who'll be nice, real customers who paid money and whose feedback is therefore honest and valuable. Fourth, iterate. Based on feedback, improve the product, add features customers want. Fix problems they encounter, refine until product-market fit emerges. Fifth, scale. Once you've validated that customers want your product and you've refined it based on feedback, then invest in scaling, not before validation. Too many entrepreneurs scale prematurely, spending heavily on marketing, infrastructure, and hiring before proving the business model works. The chapter ends with this: execution is the filter that separates dreamers from doers. Everyone can learn about the fast lane. Few will actually build fast lane businesses. The difference isn't intelligence or capital. It's willingness to execute imperfectly, learn from failures, and persist through the difficult middle where most quit. If you want fast lane wealth, you must become someone who executes, not just someone who learns about execution. Chapter 6, Lifestyle, Living the Fast Lane. Wealth isn't just about money. It's about the lifestyle that money enables. This chapter explores what fast lane success actually looks like and the freedom it creates. DeMarco starts with a critical distinction. The fast lane isn't about material consumption. It's not about Lamborghinis and mansions, though you can have those if you want. It's about freedom. Freedom to choose how you spend your time, where you live, what you work on, who you spend time with. Freedom is the ultimate luxury. He describes his own post-exit lifestyle, not working because he had to, but working on projects he found meaningful, living where he wanted, traveling when he wanted, sleeping when tired, not when an alarm dictated. No boss, no schedule, no obligations except those he chose. That's the fast lane lifestyle, not unlimited consumption, but unlimited choice. The chapter addresses the lifestyle design that the fast lane enables. Location independence. Living wherever you want, not wherever your job is located. Time abundance. Spending time on what matters to you, not what an employer requires. Financial security. Not worrying about bills, emergencies, or unexpected expenses because you have substantial wealth and ongoing income streams. But DeMarco warns about lifestyle inflation, the tendency to increase spending as income increases. Fast laners who exit businesses for millions but immediately upgrade to expensive lifestyles requiring millions to maintain have just created golden handcuffs at a higher level. They're still trapped, just at a different income tier. The smarter approach: live well, but well below your means. Even after achieving wealth, maintain modest expenses relative to your assets. This ensures your wealth lasts indefinitely, generates ongoing income from investments, and can never be lost through lifestyle spending. DeMarco shares his post-exit approach: living well, but spending probably 3 to 5% of his net worth annually. This ensures his wealth compounds rather than depletes. He could afford far more expensive lifestyle, but expense for its own sake doesn't create happiness. Freedom does. The chapter explores what fast laners do after exiting businesses. Some retire completely. They've achieved financial independence and pursue hobbies, travel, family time, personal interests. Others start new businesses, not for money, but because they enjoy building and creating. Others invest in or mentor other entrepreneurs. Others engage in philanthropy, using wealth to impact causes they care about. The point is choice. Slow laners reach retirement and finally have time, but limited money and declining health. Fast laners reach financial independence, young with time, money, and health, the trifecta that enables full life enjoyment. DeMarco addresses the purpose question that sometimes emerges post-exit. When you no longer need to work for money, what gives life meaning? Some people struggle with this. They've been so focused on wealth building that they never developed identity or purpose beyond it. Then they achieve wealth and feel empty. His advice: develop purpose alongside wealth building. Know what you'll pursue once financially free. For some, it's family and relationships. For others, creative pursuits, learning, contribution, adventure, or new business challenges. What matters is having something meaningful to pursue that isn't about money. Otherwise, achieving money leaves you purposeless. The chapter also addresses relationships in the fast lane journey building. Wealth requires focus and sacrifice, time away from family and friends, periods of intense work, missed events, and experiences. This creates strain. Some relationships survive, others don't. DeMarco is honest about the cost. The fast lane isn't free. You're trading years of intense focus and work for decades of freedom. But unlike the slow lane where you trade 40 years for maybe 10 to 20 years of freedom, the fast lane trades 5 to 10 years of building for 40 plus years of freedom. The math is dramatically better, but those building years are real and demanding. He recommends transparency with loved ones about what you're doing and why. Help them understand the vision that short-term sacrifice creates long-term freedom for everyone. Involve them where possible. Communicate about progress and challenges. Don't disappear into your business and expect relationships to survive neglect. The chapter addresses health, something slow laners often sacrifice through decades of stress, sedentary work, and deferred living. Fast laners have the opportunity to prioritize health once financially free, but they must avoid sacrificing it during the building phase. Wealth without health is worthless. DeMarco emphasizes taking care of your body even during intense building periods. Sleep, exercise, nutrition matter. Don't destroy your health-building wealth. You'll be too sick to enjoy. The lifestyle chapter also covers legacy, what you leave behind. Fast lane wealth enables significant impact. You can support causes, fund nonprofits, help family members achieve their goals, create scholarships, invest in community. Your wealth can ripple outward, creating positive impact far beyond your lifetime. But legacy isn't just money. It's also the example you set. When you demonstrate that there is an alternative to the slow lane, when you show that building businesses creates freedom, when you mentor others on their fast lane journeys, that's legacy too. You're changing others' beliefs about what's possible. DeMarco ends this chapter with a vision. Imagine waking up on a random Tuesday with no obligations, no schedule, no boss, no required location. You can spend the day however you want, working on a passion project, spending time with family, learning something new, traveling, relaxing, creating, contributing. And this isn't vacation. This is every day for the rest of your life because you've achieved financial freedom young enough to enjoy it for decades. That's the fast lane lifestyle. Not flashy cars and mansions necessarily. Just complete freedom to design your days according to your values and desires, rather than economic necessity or employer demands. That's what's possible when you build wealth fast instead of slow. That's what's waiting on the other side of execution. Chapter 7. Money and Mindset. Wealth building isn't just about strategy and execution, it's about mindset. This chapter addresses the psychological shifts required to leave the slow lane and succeed on the fast lane. DeMarco starts with producer versus consumer mindset. Most people are trained as consumers. They see the world through, what can I buy? They evaluate success by consumption. Nice car, nice house, nice things. They spend life earning money to spend on consumption that provides temporary satisfaction before needing more consumption. Fast laners shift to producer mindset. They see the world through, what can I create? When they see a successful business, they don't just think, I wish I could afford that product. They think, how did they build that? What problems are they solving? What's their business model? How could I create something similar or better? This mindset shift is foundational. Consumers trade money for things. Producers trade value for money. Consumers deplete wealth. Producers build wealth. You must shift from asking, what can I buy, to asking, what can I build? The chapter addresses victim versus responsibility mindset. Victims blame circumstances, the economy, their background, their lack of education, their bad luck, other people. They have endless reasons why wealth isn't possible for them. They're powerless because external factors control their destiny. Fast laners take responsibility, not for circumstances they didn't choose, but for their responses to those circumstances. They might face disadvantages, but they refuse to use those as excuses. They focus on what they can control, their effort, their learning, their choices, their actions. This creates power. DeMarco shares that he didn't come from wealth. He had no special advantages. He just refused to accept that circumstances determined his destiny. He took responsibility for creating his own opportunities, rather than waiting for opportunities to be given to him. The chapter addresses scarcity versus abundance mindset. Scarcity mindset believes wealth is limited. If someone else gets wealthy, there's less wealth available for me. This creates competition, jealousy, and zero-sum thinking. It makes you feel like you're fighting for scraps. Abundance mindset understands that wealth is created, not fixed. One person's wealth doesn't reduce available wealth for others. In fact, it often increases it by creating jobs, opportunities, and economic activity. There's infinite wealth available to those who create value. You're not competing for limited resources. You're creating new resources through value creation. This shift is liberating. You stop being jealous of others' success and start learning from it. You stop seeing business as a battle for limited customers and start seeing it as creating value that expands the market. You collaborate rather than compete. The chapter addresses instant gratification versus delayed gratification. Consumer culture is built on instant gratification. Buy now, pay later, feel good immediately. This destroys wealth building, which requires sacrificing immediate gratification for long-term gains. Fatlaners develop delayed gratification. They work intensely now for freedom later. They save and invest instead of consuming. They build businesses instead of buying things. They sacrifice comfort temporarily to achieve permanent freedom. This isn't natural. Our brains are wired for immediate rewards. It must be consciously cultivated. DeMarco emphasizes that delayed gratification in the fast lane is different from the slow lane. Slow lane is 40 years of delayed gratification. Fast lane is 5 to 10 years of intense focus for 40-plus years of freedom. Much shorter sacrifice period, much longer payoff period. This makes it psychologically easier. You can endure intense periods when you know freedom is years away, not decades. The chapter addresses entitlement versus earned success. Entitlement mindset believes the world owes you something, a good job, financial security, happiness. When these don't appear, you feel victimized and resentful. This keeps you stuck because you're waiting for external forces to give you what you think you deserve. Earned success mindset understands that nothing is owed to you. Success must be earned through value creation. The world doesn't care about your needs. It rewards value. When you shift to creating value rather than demanding it, opportunities open. DeMarco also addresses the growth mindset versus fixed mindset distinction. Fixed mindset believes abilities are innate. You're either smart or not, talented or not, capable or not. This creates fear of failure, which would prove you're not capable, and avoidance of challenges. Growth mindset believes abilities develop through effort. You might not know how to build a business now, but you can learn. You might fail initially, but failure is feedback that improves future attempts, challenges, or opportunities to develop capability. This creates resilience and persistence. The fast lane requires growth mindset because you'll face constant challenges, failures, and learning curves. If you believe you're either capable or not, you'll quit at the first failure. If you believe capability develops through effort, you persist until you succeed. The chapter ends with this. Mindset determines whether you even attempt the fast lane, whether you persist through challenges, and whether you ultimately succeed. The strategies matter, but without the right mindset, you'll never execute them. Cultivate producer mindset, responsibility, abundance thinking, delayed gratification, earned success mentality, and growth mindset. These psychological shifts are as important as any business strategy. Chapter 8, The Fast Lane Future. The final chapter looks at creating your fast lane life and maintaining wealth once achieved. It addresses both the journey to fast lane success and what happens after. DeMarco starts with goal setting, but not traditional slow lane goals like retire at 65 with $2 million. Fast lane goals focus on lifestyle outcomes. Achieve $10,000 monthly passive income within 5 years. Exit business for $5 million within 7 years. Achieve location independence within 3 years. These goals have urgency and specificity that drive action. He recommends reverse engineering from your goals. If you want $10,000 monthly passive income, what business would generate that? If you want to exit for $5 million, what kind of business would sell for that multiple? Work backward from the destination to determine the vehicle that gets you there. The chapter addresses the first step, choosing your fast lane vehicle. Not all businesses are created equal. Use the 5 commandments to evaluate opportunities. Find the intersection of problems that need solving, markets with entry barriers, business models you can control, opportunities that scale, and systems that can eventually run without you, time. Don't just chase what seems profitable. Choose something that aligns with your skills, interests, or expertise, not because passion is required, but because you'll persist longer when things get hard. If you have some genuine interest or connection to the business, DeMarco addresses building phase strategies. First, validate before building. Test whether people want what you're planning before investing heavily. Second, launch imperfectly. Get an MVP to market fast rather than perfecting behind the scenes. Third, iterate based on feedback. Let customers tell you what they want rather than guessing. Fourth, scale once validated. Pour resources into marketing and growth only after proving the model works. He emphasizes building systems from day one, document processes, create SOPs, hire or outsource as soon as financially viable. Your goal isn't building a job, it's building a business that can run without you. This requires systematization from the start, not as an afterthought when you're drowning in operations. The chapter addresses exit strategies. Not all fast laners exit their businesses. Some build passive income that they live on indefinitely. But many do sell, converting equity to liquid wealth to maximize exit value. Build sustainable systems. Buyers pay more for businesses that don't depend on the owner. Maintain clean financials. Buyers want clear records. Demonstrate growth trajectory. Buyers pay for future potential. And create multiple buyer options. Competition drives price up. Typical exit multiples: 2 to 4 times annual net profit for lifestyle businesses, 4 to 8 times for established businesses with strong systems, higher multiples for fast growth tech companies or businesses with unique advantages. A business generating $500,000 annual net profit might sell for $2 to $4 million, depending on sustainability, growth, and market conditions. DeMarco addresses the post-exit phase. You've achieved financial independence. Now what? First, secure your wealth. Invest conservatively to generate ongoing income without risking principal. Don't blow your exit wealth on consumption or risky investments. Create a foundation that lasts. Second, develop purpose beyond money. What will give your life meaning now that you're financially free? Some people start new businesses, others focus on family, others pursue creative projects, travel, learning, or philanthropy. What matters is having something meaningful to do. Otherwise, freedom feels empty. Third, consider mentorship or giving back. You've walked a path most people don't know exists. Sharing knowledge, mentoring entrepreneurs, or using wealth for positive impact can be profoundly meaningful. Your fast lane success can enable others' success. The chapter addresses protecting wealth once achieved. Many people who build wealth lose it through poor investment decisions, chasing returns, being scammed, lifestyle inflation, spending unsustainably, failed business ventures, investing in things outside your expertise, or divorce, failing to protect assets. Awareness prevents these pitfalls. Basic wealth preservation. Live below your means, even after achieving wealth. Invest conservatively in diversified assets. Be extremely careful with business investments outside your expertise. Protect assets through proper legal structures. Maintain the discipline that built wealth. DeMarco shares his post-exit life. He didn't stop working, but he works on projects he finds meaningful rather than for money. He invests conservatively. He mentors entrepreneurs. He writes and teaches. He's financially free, but purpose-driven, not aimlessly retired. The chapter addresses the question, is the fast lane right for you? It's not for everyone. Some people genuinely prefer the slow lane. They want job security, don't want business risk, and are okay trading time for money for decades. That's valid. But if you're reading this, you're probably not that person. The fast lane is for people who refuse to trade their youth for a geriatric payday, want control over their time and destiny, are willing to take calculated risks, can handle uncertainty and delayed gratification, and are willing to work intensely for years to buy decades of freedom. If that's you, the fast lane is your path. DeMarco ends with a challenge. Stop consuming information and start executing. You now understand the slow lane is broken. You know the fast lane exists and how it works. You understand the 5 commandments, the wealth equation, and the execution strategies. The only question is, will you do it? Most people won't. They'll return to their slow lane lives, convinced they're being responsible and safe, trading the best years of their lives for a plan that probably won't make them wealthy. A small percentage will attempt the fast lane. Most of those will quit after their first failure. But a very few, will persist. They'll learn from failures. They'll keep executing. They'll eventually build fast lane businesses. And they'll achieve financial freedom decades before their peers, living life on their terms, while everyone else is still grinding. Which group will you be in? That's determined by what you do after closing this video, not what you intend to do, not what you plan to do someday, what you actually do starting today. And there you have it, the millionaire fast lane, the complete roadmap to wealth that nobody talks about because it threatens the entire system. Let's crystallize the truth you now understand. The slow lane is a scam. Working 40 years, saving 10%, investing in index funds, and retiring at 65 is not a plan for wealth. It's a plan for trading your entire youth for modest comfort when you're old. If you're lucky, you now understand why jobs are wealth jail. Trading time for money has a mathematical ceiling. You can't work enough hours to become wealthy. Even high-paying jobs just create well-compensated employees, not wealthy people. True wealth comes from assets that produce income independent of your time. You understand the fast lane equation. Wealth equals net profit plus asset value times time, where time is compressed to years, not decades. You build or acquire assets, businesses that generate profit and appreciate in value. You scale them to serve many people. You systematize them to run without your constant presence. You eventually sell them for multiples of annual profit, converting equity to liquid wealth. You know the 5 commandments that determine whether a business can create fast lane wealth. Need, solving real problems. Entry, barriers to entry protecting your position. Control, owning your business and destiny. Scale, reaching many people without proportional time increase. And time, eventually decoupling from your daily presence. Businesses passing all 5 are fast lane vehicles. Those failing multiple commandments won't create rapid wealth. You understand that execution is where almost everyone fails, not because they don't understand the concepts, but because doing is infinitely harder than learning. Starting is uncomfortable. Failing is painful. Persisting through challenges requires resilience most people lack. But execution is the filter. It's what separates the few who achieve fast lane wealth from the many who just talk about it. But here's where 99% of people who learn this will stay exactly where they are. They won't execute. They'll watch this video, feel inspired, think, that makes sense, maybe even buy the book. And then they'll return to their slow lane lives. They'll go to their jobs Monday. They'll keep saving their 10%. They'll keep telling themselves they're being responsible while their youth drains away, building someone else's wealth. Why? Because the fast lane requires uncomfortable things. Risk. Starting businesses means uncertain income, possible failure, no guarantees effort. Building businesses is harder initially than showing up to a job. Delayed gratification, years of intense work before payoff. Responsibility. You can't blame bosses or circumstances when you control your business. Fear of failure, judgment, wasted effort. The slow lane offers the illusion of comfort and safety. A steady paycheck, benefits, someone else making decisions, clear expectations. It feels safe even though it's actually incredibly risky. One income source, zero control, dependent on factors outside your control. But humans prefer familiar risk to unfamiliar opportunity. So here's your moment of truth. You can close this video and return to the slow lane, show up to your job, trade your time for money, save 10%. Invest in your 401k. Work for 40 years. Hope the market performs. Hope you stay healthy. Hope your employer doesn't downsize you. Hope everything goes perfectly. Then maybe, if you're lucky, retire at 65 with enough to be comfortable when you're old. Or you can choose the fast lane. You can commit to building a business according to the 5 commandments. You can execute despite fear and uncertainty. You can persist through inevitable failures and challenges. You can work intensely for 5 to 10 years to buy 40+ years of freedom. You can achieve financial independence young enough to actually enjoy it, with health, energy, and time. Here's your action step, and it must happen this week. Choose your fast lane vehicle. Identify a problem that needs solving. Brainstorm business ideas that meet the 5 commandments. Evaluate them honestly. Pick one, the one that best aligns with your skills, the market opportunity, and fast lane criteria. Then, validate it. Create a simple landing page describing the solution. Drive small amounts of traffic. See if anyone's interested. Not thinking about ideas, not researching more. Action this week. Because here's the truth. You already have enough information. You know the slow lane is broken. You know the fast lane exists. You know the principles. What you lack isn't more information. It's execution. And execution starts with one uncomfortable action that moves you from employee to entrepreneur, from slow lane to fast lane, from time for money to wealth building. Just one action. This week, validate one idea, then build an MVP, then launch imperfectly, then iterate based on feedback, then scale once validated. One step leads to the next. 5 years from now, you'll be somewhere. The question is where. If you stay on the slow lane, you know exactly where. Probably not much different than today, just 5 years older with 5 fewer years until retirement, if you ever get there. Still trading time for money, still building someone else's wealth, still hoping someday you'll be free. Or you could be somewhere completely different. You could have built and scaled a business. You could have generated substantial wealth, maybe not exited yet, but on that path with a valuable asset you control. You could be experiencing the freedom that comes from building something that produces income independent of your time. You could be years or maybe just months from financial independence. That transformation doesn't happen by accident. It happens by choosing the fast lane, despite it being harder and scarier than the slow lane. It happens by executing when everyone else is just learning. It happens by persisting when everyone else quits. It happens by becoming the kind of person who builds wealth first rather than hoping to accumulate it. Slow M.J. DeMarco built a multi-million-dollar business and achieved financial independence in his 30s through the fast lane. He lived the principles he teaches. Thousands of others have followed the same roadmap to similar results. The path works. The question is whether you'll walk it. If this video showed you that there's an alternative to the slow lane prison, share it with someone trapped in a job they hate, trading their life for a paycheck. Leave a comment with your fast lane business idea. Make it public. Create accountability. Commit to action. And subscribe for more content that doesn't just describe reality, but shows you how to transform it. The Millionaire Fast Lane is open. The road is clear. The destination is financial freedom decades before the slow lane promises. The only question is, will you take it? Or will you stay in slow lane traffic, watching fast laners pass you by, wondering what could have been if you just had the courage to try? Your future, fast lane or slow lane, is determined by the choice you make today, not tomorrow, not someday, today. The fast lane is waiting. Your financially free future is waiting. The only question is, are you willing to do what it takes to claim it? Choose your lane wisely. Your future depends on it.